Hello YouTube, this is Magnolia Mo and you are watching my channel. In today's video, I am going to discuss video calibration versus picture settings. Two are not the same. Let's get that out of the way here. Um, Picture settings is just going into your TV menu and then altering or adjusting your brightness, your contrast, your color, your gamma, all the various different settings, right? Your motion, for instance, right? But a calibration is done by a person who is, number one, preferably ISF certified, Image Science Federation certified, right? Who has been trained on calibrating displays. And number two, not just the person, you also need the equipment. Video calibration equipment is expensive, so you know if you have it, more power to you. But in an ideal world, you're just better off paying somebody to calibrate your display. When I worked at in retail, um, customers would ask me all the time, is it worth calibrating, professionally calibrating the TV that I'm buying? And I always said yes, right? There's no instance that you should say no to that, because out of the box, we all know how TVs are, right? If you walk into a Best Buy or to a PC Richards, and God bless, rest in peace, Sears. Like if you walked into Sears when Sears was still around, or even, I'm going to go back to Circuit City. And anyways, doesn't matter. If you walked into a store and you saw the TVs, right, lined up, wall to wall TVs, they're all running in the vivid, high contrast, the overly saturated image. And like when I used to work in retail, I would, at least in our demo room, I would change the picture settings to cinema mode or to custom, and then kind of alter it a little bit, so that it's not just running hot when it comes to color and brightness, and not burning holes into your eyes, because the demo room would be dark. But then there came a point where we were told not to touch the displays by manufacturers. So that tells you what they want to do is they want you to buy the brightest TV that's out there, and everyone's shooting for that. We have our TV is the brightest on the market when it comes to nits, when it comes to peak brightness and things like that. Yes, but when you actually calibrate the display, is it really going to be that bright? Tell you it won't be. So anyway, so the bottom line here is uh, you can go on to Sound and Vision, look at their reviews of a display, and at the bottom they'll put the picture settings, or their calibrated settings. You can go to rthings.com. When they do their reviews, they do a pre and post calibration report, and then they'll list what their picture settings are. You can use those, but use them as a guide. I wouldn't mess in If I was you, I wouldn't mess with the color decoder settings, right? I wouldn't mess with your 10-point color adjustments or 5-point color adjustments. I wouldn't mess with that, because chances are you're just gonna harm the picture, if you start adjusting, because no two panels are the same. Yeah, I'm gonna repeat that. No two TV display panels are the same, period. So if no two panels are the same, you cannot just take somebody else's settings and just enter them into your TV and think that you're done and you're good to go. All right. So what I'm gonna do in this video, I'm gonna show you two different paths, right? I mean, if you can pay somebody, to get your display calibrated, that is 100% the right way to go about it. I'll share with you my calibrated settings, when I got my Geek Squad to do my TV, my display. Then alternatively, I'm going to show you what you can do at home if you don't want to pay somebody, if you like to mess around with picture settings, if this is your cup of tea. There is another way that you can do this, without really harming the picture. It actually will improve the picture overall, your viewing experience, at the end of the day. All right, so let's get on with it. Okay, so let's talk about the easy way. Okay, the easy way meaning you don't pay anybody. You just use the tools that you have to go about adjusting your picture quality, or adjusting your contrast, your black levels, your contrast, your brightness, your color decoder, not decoder. I'm sorry, your color settings, um, and your gamma, right? Uh, and 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 get to a point where you are getting a good picture, right? Short of getting it professionally calibrated. So, where do I start? I'm going to take you way back, right? Way back into the early 2000s, when we had DVD players, and we had DVDs. I started with this disc right here. It's Avia Guide to Home Theater. Okay, bought this at Best Buy, um, and it is a DVD, but on the disc, and you can see I have my picture settings that I wrote in here. I have to go to a different disc here, but so with Avia, you actually have these color filters, and you have test patterns, right? So the color filters comes with your basic, your blue. You can see it. You know, your blue filter, your red and green filters. I believe this is green, and this is the red. Yes, the red and green filters, and you basically what you do is you run the test patterns on your on play the disc in your DVD player, and you adjust you start with your contrast, then you go down to then you go to your brightness. I'm going to walk us through this, but then you go to and then you use the color filters to adjust the color, and then there's some gamma settings that if your TV has the gamma setting. But at the end of the day, what you do is you run through all the test patterns, video test patterns in here. Then fast forward to Blu-ray days. I purchased this Digital Video Essentials HD Basics, right? This one also has your color filters, your red, green, and blue, if you can see. And obviously it's a Blu-ray disc, so this also has some audio test patterns as well, but video test patterns too. So you can do the same thing, using an HD test pattern, right? 1080p test pattern. Now you can adjust your brightness and your contrast and so on and so forth. Now fast forward to UHD 4K Blu-ray. I ended up getting the UHD HDR benchmark by Spears and Munsell, right? This is a lot of folks have this, and you can use, and same thing. It doesn't come with color filters, but I use the color filters that I have from my other discs. Again, it has got the Ultra HD test patterns, right? No audio test patterns, just video. Ultra HD test patterns. I believe I picked this up on Amazon, and I think it was $34 or so on Amazon a couple years, maybe 2 years, 3 years back. But it's got Dolby Vision test patterns. It's got HDR test patterns, HDR10 test pattern as well, HDR10 Plus also, and SDR. So you can do both, right? In 1080p and Ultra HD, you can run those patterns, and you can get two settings, or pick one and do one. But that's the easy way, right? And then the easy way is fun too. So let's get into it right now. All right, so let's talk about what you can do in your own home, right, without having your TV professionally calibrated. So here I have the Spears and Munsell UHD HDR benchmark disc. This is a splash screen. This is where the disc opens up. If you follow the instructions for Spears and Munsell, basically they ask you to, and this is a very important point. You should never adjust your picture settings, when in your HDR10 or Dolby Vision mode, because those, your display is actually reading the metadata and using the internal database on the TV to figure out the tone mapping, the HDR tone mapping, and making the adjustments within within your picture frame by frame. So you should not adjust your set when you're outputting um, uh, uh, an HDR picture. So what they recommend is to actually do your basic settings in the SDR mode, which I have right here, SDR BT 709, right? As opposed to the P3 D65 BT 2020. So contrast, and this is the contrast setting that I have for my TV based off of this disc, right? So you can see all the bars, pretty much all the bars, nothing above 1,000. It's barely visible, but the way to set up the your picture settings in this particular case, obviously, is to go into your. So before I go there, I just want to say you have to turn off all of the processing on your TV, right? So auto picture mode, light sensor, motion, clarity, anything that the TV is gonna use to enhance or to process the picture, you need to turn everything off. Go into your brightness section or menu, or in this particular case, now brightness, this is the luminance level of the panel. Okay, this is not your black level setting. So I keep it at max, even though my room is dark. I prefer that way. You could turn it down. It's not going to harm, or the overall picture quality is just going to make the luminance go down, right? But for grayscale settings or grayscale tracking, you have to adjust the contrast and the black level that you see down below. So contrast, I keep it at 86. You have to start all the way at the max, and you see all the bars went away. And then you lower your contrast setting until you see the highest bar visible, right? Still not visible. Go down to 80, 90. I still don't see 1,000. I barely 996, 997. Go down to 89. Now I can see all the other bars, but I don't see now. The other setting is it is within your colors here, within the squares. You have a tiny little square. I hope you can see that. That needs to be eliminated. That needs to be clearly visible from your main seating position. And when you're at that, it means there's no clipping going on in the video, right? So this in 89 appears to be right at that point where there's no clipping. I prefer to go down a little bit more to 86, right? Doesn't do a whole lot, but you can see your blooming over here in the center. There's a white line here. That's also pretty good. And so the contrast to me between 86 89 is the right setting for the A80J. Now, once you're done with the contrast, then you go over to your black level. Okay, black level is your black level. This is your brightness. Okay, this is your shadow detail. How much do you want to? How much you can see within a dark image? You know, if the scene is dark, you should be able to see detail, right, within that scene. So as you can see, I'm at 50, which is the default setting. And why am I at 50? So let me go back. So I've increased it. You're supposed to have 4 vertical bars here. This TV does not display the left 2 bars, only displays the right 2 bars, which is fine. But according to the instructions, if that is the case, if you're not able to see the left 2 vertical bars, you need to adjust the picture down to when only the right 2 are visible, but then the checker box appears or it's barely visible, which is 50. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see the checker box in this video or not, but the checker box was right there, but I had to increase it. So on the camera, it's not going to come through, but at 50 you just have to trust me when I say that. But that is the right black level setting for this particular TV. And then the next is I turn off the advanced contrast enhancer. Peak luminance, I keep it at high. This optimizes the contrast, especially in dark scenes, you know, by analyzing the screen's luminance level in real time and making bright areas brighter. This does not affect your grayscale tracking or your color saturation. Then you go into your color. Now, this is important. This is completely optional. Okay, years ago when TVs were not accurate out of the box, right? You had to, you needed to adjust this setting. But now, pretty much all more modern TVs these days, out of the box, have very good color saturation, very good color tracking all the way through, and you need minimal adjustments. Now, I didn't adjust this, but if I use the blue filter on here, and you're gonna see this, as you can see right here, you could see. So you have your two rectangles, one's for color, one's for tint. The blue rectangle and the white background should all be the same. So you can see there's a little bit of a difference, yes. And I can increase the color to 53, and it will blend, and everything will be the same color. But by putting it at 53, I felt like I was oversaturating, the red, so I left it at 50. It is better to just leave it like that if it's close. Nothing to do with hue. And then expert one is the color temperature that I picked. You can pick different, you can pick one or two. One is what I went with for this particular setting. And then live colors off, clarity, which is your sharpness, kept it at 50. Reality creation, this is enhancing the detail. It's adding additional video processing, making it super resolute. I usually turn this off. Random noise is off. Digital noise reduction is off. Smooth gradation is off. Motion, this is where the motion flow, I keep it off. Up to you. You can turn it on depending on your liking. Cinemotion, it detects the video of movies and other content, right? So I keep it at high. And then here's the big one, which in my opinion, you should not touch. Unless you have all the right, unless you have calibration equipment, right? These are the color temperature settings. This is the basic. Then you also have the multi-point, and then you have the pre-color setting. You can adjust the basic, but what are you going to base it off? You can't use color filters for this. You need the actual calibration software and calibration equipment for this purpose. So you leave this the way it is. And if it's bothering you, then what I say is to get an actual calibrator to come out and calibrate your TV. So that's it. Those are the three basic settings that you can adjust on your display without having it professionally calibrated. All right, so on the flip side, here is when my Sony A1E was professionally calibrated by Geek Squad, right? So they gave me the pre and post calibration settings, and this is a process. They used CalMan workflow. They attached a colorimeter to the display, and they take their initial pre-calibration readings, right, of how the display performs, and then they adjust the grayscale and then the color space at various luminance levels to get the TV calibrated. It is a long, and arduous process that they go through. But you can see the pre and post settings right there for the red, green, and blues, the highs and lows. The initial settings versus the post settings versus this is the initial, and then the other one was the post calibrated settings. And then this is the goal here is to number one, get the grayscale to track correctly without any colors right within the gray space. And then next step, once the grayscale is done, they move on to the color space calibration, and that's done at various different luminance levels, right? And it is the goal here is to get these dots into those squares as closely as possible. It's easier said than done, but because they have to do this at different luminance levels, and they have to keep going back and between different colors to make sure that one adjustment is not throwing another adjustment off, right? So once they get the color balance correct, then they go back and they recheck against the grayscale. Then they go back and they keep redoing this until you know, they have met all their targeted results, right, for your particular display following the Kalman workflow. So this is a pretty intense process. So I'm back. So I hope you liked this video, and I hope it was informative. At the very least, my goal was to get my point across, which was that the actual professional TV calibration is always better, it's preferred. But if you cannot, if you don't want to, then you can go down the path of, getting these discs, the Spears and Munsell, for instance, or um, if you don't have, I guess you have a UHD display, so you would get that. But you can go down that path and get in and try to adjust your picture settings that way. But I hope I got my point across. If you like this video, please don't forget to share, subscribe, and obviously like this video. And I'll see you in the next one. By Spears and Munsell, right?